It's the middle of the summer, but there's still so much going on that we had to get Dusty back here for the Rusty and Dusty Sideshow. So let's dive right into things. Welcome back to the show, brother.
How are you doing? How's your summer going so far?
So far, so good. So far, so good. Looking for some new space for the studio, so we'll see how that goes. Got to relocate the bar, so we'll keep you guys up to date on that. How about yourself?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. Just trying to stay cool in this little heat wave we got going right now. It's been pretty hot out here in Chilliwack.
It feels like it's summertime, but it almost feels like the Canucks don't want to go away. They want to be at the top of our news cycle. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we had to talk about. So I wanted to bring you on to chat. So let's start off, and this is one of the interesting ones that I saw on Reddit. And at the end of the year, they tallied all of the different people who scored from different areas of the ice. And to my happiness, we actually ended up with 2 Vancouver Canucks on this chart. So you got Mr. Quinn Hughes from the left point with 6 goals, the most from that section. And then right literally in the crease, the gargoyle, Connor Garland with 7 goals from in the crease, surrounded by Braden Point there with his 33 goals right from just outside that. But regardless, 2 Vancouver Canucks on the top goal scoring by region. What does that mean for these 2 Vancouver Canucks to show up on a list with so many good players?
Well, I mean, Hughes belongs there, right? I mean, that just makes sense. He worked on his shot in last offseason because that was one of the big knocks against him, is that he didn't shoot the puck enough or didn't have a strong enough shot, and that he was going to be more of a setup guy. Well, he took that to heart, just like he did when they criticized his defensive play, and he worked on it, and he came back and he owned that corner of the offensive zone. The one that stands out to me is Garland, right in the crease there. I mean, look at who he's surrounded by. You got Braden Point, Draisaitl, Patrick Laine, Alex Ovechkin, John Tavares. Like, these are elite hockey players. On the flip side of that, it tells you how poor the Canucks were offensively last year. To rely on someone like Connor Garland getting the majority of their goals from those dirty areas. Is that a positive to Garland's game? Yes. Does that make him a top 6 forward? I still not sold on that. It's a huge thing that he is able to get to those areas, but I think he's still more well suited as a third line guy to provide that secondary scoring. It'd be nice to see maybe a Petey or a Besser on this list next year from one of those areas, potting a few more goals and having a better season than last year. Obviously, not a huge offensive list to pull from with the Canucks. So good on Garland for getting onto this. But hopefully he can provide more of that again going forward. But obviously, we'd like to see more of our superstars pushing to be on this list.
Correct. Yeah. But good. Always good to see some Canucks showing up on that list. Quinn Hughes being the best defense in the league. You got to see him on these kinds of lists. So
absolutely.
Artur Silovs. I don't know if you can tell. I've been
he
crying
loves
for
you
days.
Later.
Yeah. I'm very, very sad because obviously giving up on not giving up on, but moving on from a guy who has an MVP at the World Championship and an MVP in the Calder Cup playoffs. Obviously a fan favorite, really nice guy. But will no longer be playing for the Vancouver Canucks, but also happy for him because he's moving to an organization in Pittsburgh where he legitimately has a chance to walk in and be the number 1 goalie. But before we talk too much about that trade, let's talk about the trade that didn't happen. Edmonton tried to get Sheilovs. Can you imagine?
I mean, yeah, clearly. I don't think the Canucks wanted to move Sheilovs. Let's be clear. I think they were hoping to do everything in their power to maybe try and keep him around. The issue is, once they signed that extension with Demko, we talked about how the writing was kind of on the wall. And, you know, I didn't really see a path forward where Sheilovs could play another game in a Canucks jersey. That being said, knowing you have to make a trade, you're not going to trade the Calder Cup final winning goaltender to a division rival.
No.
I mean, I hope that the second that Edmonton called inquiring, that Alvin laughed and hung up the phone. You entertain them, but they would have had to offer quite a substantially better offer than what the Pittsburgh Penguins ended up giving us in return for Sheilovs to make that trade within a division. Also on the flip side, Edmonton picking up Sheilovs doesn't really know if he's better than what they have right now. I mean, they kind of have two Artur Sheilovs in Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard right now, in younger goalies that are still trying to establish themselves as proper NHL goalies. Um, would Sheilovs maybe then benefit from one of them faltering? Yes, but chances are they probably would have tried to start him in the AHL, and they would have had to put him through waivers, and Edmonton could have lost him in that bet. So Pittsburgh, I think, is a good place for him. And we all know that Alvin likes doing business with the Penguins because of his history with the organization. And who knows, after this year, or if Sheilov becomes a free agent in the future, there's nothing saying he couldn't be signed as a free agent back in Vancouver if that time comes. One thing that worked against the Canucks, obviously, with Sheilovs was the lengthening contract with the full no move clause. Um, after next season, if Demko proves to be the number one goalie and he's healthy, you can't move Lankinen for another 2 years after that. So you're locked in for at least 2 full seasons with goalies you cannot move, and $13 million in the crease. So it's a tough road that Alvin kind of paved for himself, and it hurts me emotionally as a Canucks fan, absolutely. But on the business side of it, I understand why this happened, because you had to get something for him. I wish they would have tried to trade him before the Demko extension kind of went public and got talked about, because I think they probably could have gotten more for him. Once that extension was put on paper, they were not getting the same value for Sheilovs, because everyone in the league knew they were backed into a corner. If they didn't take what they offered, they would have just waited till waivers and picked them off of there for free. So, I figured when we started talking about how Alvin's going to have to start taking it on the chin a little bit and shedding some cap, taking on mid-level draft picks for future use in other trades possibly, or also to restock the cupboard, because there are a lot of guys leaving the Abbotsford Canucks organization this offseason as well. So he did a good job in picking up a young guy who is a former first round pick in Stillman, and then the mid round draft pick in 2027, I believe it is. So fourth rounder. You know, I wish they could have got more, but given the cycle of events, it's pretty good of them to get anything back, because teams could have just waited until they were forced to put them on waivers.
Now, I know your initial reaction to getting a Stillman, one of the Stillmans, the third one to play in the NHL, was not favorable. But after you dug into it a little bit, what did you find out about Mr. Chase Stillman?
Well, obviously, he started with Utica last year, who started the year with a 13-game losing streak, went through a coaching change. He never really found his footing in his first full year at pro hockey. And then once he got traded over to Wilkes-Barre Scranton in the Pittsburgh organization, he started to get his confidence back, and that's where he scored the majority of the 12 goals that he got last season, was after that trade. And also, this kid is tough. He will defend any teammate on the ice. He's a big physical player. He will throw his body around. And I really like that about him. So it made more sense why the Canucks went out and got a player like that. A little more size, a little more toughness. Also has a lot of speed. He's got really good movement with the puck, but just never really found his footing, given the organizations he was entering in the AHL that aren't really in strong positions as AHL teams, to kind of boost development for some of these more on the fence players. You know, those kind of first round draft picks that need that little extra guidance to get up to the pro level. Not all first round draft picks are gems like, or generational talents like Connor McDavid or things like that. Sometimes they need a little time to marinate, or they need changes of scenery. I read today actually Stillman's interview that he did with Chris Faber, and I really like this kid's attitude. He talks about how the Canucks picked him up for a reason, and he is super appreciative of that. He's ready to go in and ask what he has to do, what they want him to do. He's ready to do anything. So he sounds like a super coachable kid. Will tap him on the shoulder, he'll go out there and fight. Tap him on the shoulder to go through a big hit, he's ready to do that. If they want him to improve his offensive game, he'll do what they ask for that. So it sounds like he's just kind of a jack of all trades player that's really hungry to make it to that next level. And the other side note is that last summer he actually skated with Malhotra in the offseason in Toronto, when Malhotra was running some off-season skates for some guys out there back home. So there is a familiarity there between Stillman and Malhotra, which will kind of kickstart his development in the Abbey Canucks organization, which is likely where he starts this season.
Yeah, I wonder if Malhotra had anything to do with that then, because if he knows the guy has got some wheels, then maybe he's happy to bring him onto his roster and help him, because that's one thing Malhotra did amazing last year, developing guys. And so if he can take this young guy and turn him into a piece, then suddenly it's not all a loss. And like we said, we got the draft pick as well. And with some of the goaltending trades that have been happening lately, the Canucks actually got more than most of the goaltending trades have happened so far in the last couple months here. So regardless of losing the hero, I think the Canucks did well enough to make it worth it for it. I mean, depending, do you think Sheiloffs ends up being the number one goalie in Pittsburgh and puts that bubble team into a playoff spot, or is that asking a little too much out of this young guy?
It's hard to say what they decide, given that it could be Crosby's last hurrah, and Malkin and kind of everyone together there. It depends on how he does in preseason and camp, and how they feel he's going to step up into being an NHL player. I mean, you can't knock the kid being a big game player. I mean, you look at all the stuff he's done in championship games or in world championship tournaments. I mean, he's got 2 MVPs. He's got a Calder Cup championship. He's not even 24 or he just turned 24 years old. So, I mean, it's a great gamble for the Pittsburgh Penguins to be able to pick this kid up. And, it's good on the Canucks for getting something in return from him when all signs were pointing to have to put him on waivers and run the risk of just losing him for nothing. So I'm happy about that. And the trade, yeah, people are going to be upset always with the return because he's our player. We always think we should get more for what we got. But when you look at the stats like you were talking about, I think I saw a tweet out there the other day that said the last 30 goalie trades, only 2 have returned a first round pick, and it was like Linus Ullmark and I can't remember the other one, but they're top end goalies, right? So it's like they're already established starting goalies. So to get this back, I'm happy with the trade. I'm excited to see what Stillman can do under Malhotra's coaching. Because clearly he sounds hungry. Sounds like they already have a relationship, and like you said, maybe Manny had a hand in it. Wouldn't surprise me, given the way we've seen him interact with players off the ice in little clips of him chatting with guys, and just it's very casual and personal, but also very smart and thoughtful in the way he treats everyone, not differently, but is able to communicate with each player on their level to make the relationship the best it is between each player and coach. And it's a really, really positive environment from what it looks like to be in the Abbey Canucks development organization right now. And I'm really excited to see what they can do with this kid.
Well, my bold prediction as we look at the goalies for the Pittsburgh Penguins, there is only one on the roster. They have a couple prospects, but they are not NHL ready. You got Surrey native Tristan Jarry, who was, for lack of a better word, terrible last year. So something tells me my bold prediction is Archer Sheiloffs will be the number one goalie for the Pittsburgh Penguins to start next year.
And I would agree with you.
Brother Myers.
Going to be a lot for him, though.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, though. And that's, I did just see Kevin Woodley on another show. And the one thing he said is that Sheiloffs is at his best when he's playing on a regular basis. And if he can do that in Pittsburgh, who knows? And especially for teams like that, the scouting reports are not as stressful as teams tend not to put too much effort into a team like Pittsburgh, who you can just beat by just beating them.
Exactly.
Brother Myers, the only brother that Quinn Hughes needs. He was on a show. It's a Cam and Strick podcast. So Tyler Myers taking his time out of his summer. So I'll just actually pull this up and play this clip for everyone so they can see what's going on here. Oh, I guess we should.
The media kind of took off with that. They say they all want to play together. We're all going to get them together, you know.
One big happy family.
Do you give him shit about that? Like, were you guys like in a group chat, like just giving it to him or
See
what?
you, buddy.
Oh, Huggy doesn't like all that speculation and stuff. He's, you know, he loves his brothers, loves his family like everybody else, but he's not going around the room saying he wants to play with his brothers. You know, I know it's a big story, around the hockey world, but you know, it's everyone makes that a lot more than it is.
Hughes.
So, from the Chaos Giraffe's mouth, total BS. And I mean, even did you see the tweet from the Buffalo Sabres? They were like doing a tweet with buffalo wings, and it was "Brother, where art thou?" And it was a blue wing and 2 red wings.
Yeah.
I think I've always kind of smelt BS on a story like this just because it seems like something that you can kind of just like, oh, this makes sense. Why wouldn't you want to play with your brothers? But really, at the end of the day, I think as NHL players, they understand like the Sedins was a freak show. There's no way that like that you don't normally end up playing with your brothers, especially getting drafted at the same time. And the other aspect is Quinn Hughes is a very competitive guy. And I think the aspect of, is there a chance for me to bring a Stanley Cup to Vancouver for the first time ever? I think that lays heavily on him. So I think you probably agree with me. There's no way Quinn Hughes is leaving this team.
Well, I wouldn't go that far as to 100% guarantee, but like I said, the media took Rutherford's words and kind of blew it way out of proportion. Quinn likely was super uncomfortable with Rutherford saying it out like that because Quinn's a pretty private person, and who wouldn't want to play professional hockey with their brothers? I mean, obviously you would want to do that. You would have more fun with them than against them. But I mean, there's been plenty of brothers in the NHL that haven't gotten the opportunity to play together, and they play against each other a lot. I mean, there's all the Stahl brothers. Occasionally, 2 of them did play together out of a mixed set of 2. It was never like all 3 on the same team, from what I recall. And I'm sure they would have loved to be all on the same team at some point. Maybe not Eric and Mark when Eric tried to take Mark's head off, but you know, at the end of the day, they were playing for different teams, and hockey's hockey. You got to do your job. So I think Quinn falls under that category more of hockey is hockey, and I am a member of the Canucks organization, and it's my job to do anything in my power to get this organization to a Stanley Cup. Are there dreams of him playing with his brothers? Absolutely. They probably had that dream ever since they were little kids, all playing for the same team in the middle of the street when they're 7 years old, imagining they're winning the Stanley Cup. Like, who wouldn't want that? It's just typical of the Vancouver media to blow it out of proportion. And the way Myers reacted, I mean, you got to think that most of the time, these guys are laughing hysterically in the dressing room at a lot of these reports that are coming out because they are pretty ridiculous sometimes.
Yeah, agreed. So then, even as we were getting ready to chat today, the Vancouver Canucks are like, "Oh, the AHL put their schedule out. Quick, get the schedule out!" So they've dropped that now. So good to see. Preseason starts, as you can see here, September. So the first game will be against the Seattle Kraken, and then in October, Game 1 of the regular season will be played on October the 9th against the Flames. So similar to last year. They'll be playing against the Flames at home to start the year, which doesn't usually happen, but hopefully they can get a different result than they did last year. Was there any games that really stuck out for you over the course of the season?
Obviously you look at, first thing I always look at are long road trips and try and find where those are. And I was happy to see that there's no 6 or 7 game road trips for the Canucks this year. The longest one is 1 5-game road trip. The rest are 3 or less. So that's really good news. One downside that you had pointed out was the lots of back-to-backs. But when you look a little further into it, it's not horrible in the sense that most of them are at home. The ones on the road are like almost bus travel to the other city for the next night. So they're not super intense. I would say the worst one for travel is going from Colorado to Minnesota in April. The rest of them are like Florida, Tampa Bay, San Jose, Anaheim. So you're not really moving time zones. You're just off to another city that's close by. So those typically the guys are in good enough shape to handle. And I mean, by now in their NHL career, I mean, back-to-backs are something that every team goes through. It's not just the Canucks. So these guys have done enough of them. I think it's time we kind of step away from the excuses of like, oh, these stats and back-to-backs and this sort of thing. I mean, it is what it is. Every team goes through it. You need to be prepared, and that comes down to coaching and conditioning, and hopefully they aren't too big of an issue.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the marquee matchup that everyone's going to be looking at is when JT Miller returns to Vancouver in, I think, when was it? Late October or
October 28th.
Yeah.
And then I did notice too, obviously we got to keep our eyes out for the first game with Rick Tocchet back in town. So I think that ends up happening in January, I believe. Yeah. So January the 30th, Rick Tocchet back in town with the Philadelphia Flyers. So another one to mark on your calendars. The other one I didn't look at, but we do have obviously on the same, you can't see it because the thing's in the way. The Minnesota Wild in town in December as well. Oh, this is December, not January. So it's the Philadelphia Flyers and the Minnesota Wild. The main reason, obviously, I point out the Wild, because if they do re-sign Trenton, then that's a night for us to get some revenge for Mr. Forbort. And I think those are kind of the ones that kind of I popped out and looked at. The other thing I wanted to pull out here was this one that came off of Reddit. So this is a list of all the red marks are playing against a rested team while tired. So if you're coming off a game of a back-to-back and then you have to play against a team that was waiting for you, and then this is another one that says playing a tired team while rested. So you're going into play a team that had just played the night before. And as you can see here, right in the middle here, the Vancouver Canucks are playing against rested teams 10 times and will be rested 8 times. So for the Canucks, that looks pretty even. And then the other graphic that quickly popped out was the amount of back-to-back games. The Vancouver Canucks end up with 13 back-to-back games, which the average is 13.4. So really at the end of the day, I think the NHL has put a lot of effort into making sure that there isn't some huge advantages. You can even see on this list, there are a couple lower ones here for some of these teams, but at the end of the day, all these stats are looking pretty even. So I think we have to be pretty satisfied with what the NHL has done with this schedule.
Yeah, when I first looked at it, I thought it was probably one of the best schedules the Canucks have had in the last 5-6 years. So, I was pretty pleased. Overall, nothing too serious. And when you bring out those graphics, they kind of fall right in the middle of the league for, the back-to-backs and the rested and unrested. So, yeah, overall pretty balanced, and we'll just see what these guys can do. I mean, we still don't even know what the lineup's going to look like on opening night. I saw a graphic earlier today from I think Canucks feed or Canucks news summaries that like Carlson, Baines, and Ratu are poised to make the team, and it's like, okay, well, when are the Bluger and Joshua trades happening and these sort of things? So I'm like, clearly there's far more Canucks news coming this summer
Yeah.
before we get to training camp. So, yeah, obviously this is not going to be our last show of this summer. And here we were thinking there wouldn't be much to talk about.
I saw a video. Arshdeep Bain's down practicing with Bedard, so hopefully he's in his ear, but like, hey, just hold out, man. Don't worry about it.
And I also heard rumblings today that one EP40 has returned to Vancouver already and is training for preseason.
Very
So, obviously buying into what the team has asked him to do this offseason. He's healthy. He's ready to go. He's ready to prove people wrong. And boy, I can't wait.
Well, this is the last thing I'll show you for the Canucks schedule. So this comes from Ben Lipka on Twitter. And this is all the games that the Canucks will have a Abbotsford Canucks and a Vancouver Canucks home game on the same day. So that only happens 7 times this season. So I believe the AHL and the NHL do their best to keep their affiliates and the main teams from playing on the same time in the same city, essentially. So it looks like they have done a pretty good job of that. So there won't be too much of fans being pulled away between different stadiums.
Nice.
I put it out in the universe yesterday. I wanted to see if anyone had some questions for Dustin because, sometimes people want to ask questions. And so Rome responded with my favorite question. So I'm going to ask you what he wanted to know. And he said, do you think the Canucks could have gotten more for Sheiloffs if they had waited until training camp when teams might be more desperate while trying to figure out their rosters?
No. I think I've made it pretty clear that the Canucks would have got the best value for Sheilov if they had traded him before any Demko extension was signed on paper, or even rumored out in public. The closer the Canucks got to the regular season, the more likely a team was just going to wait and pluck him off of waivers because the Canucks wouldn't have been able to carry him on their full roster if Demko and Lankinen were fully healthy going into the regular season. They would have put him on waivers. And I mean, the second he went on waivers, there would have been about 10 teams lining up to pick him. So they would have lost him for nothing, I think, if they had gone all the way into training camp with Sheilov still an Vancouver or Abbotsford Canuck.
Thank you, Rome, for sending in the question. We appreciate it.
Yeah, good question. Good question. But no, I do not think they would have got more.
I agree with you. Yeah, it was pretty much a done deal as soon as they signed that extension with Mr. Demko.
Yeah.
Dustin, is there anything you want to say to the kids before I let you go for the day?
I hope everyone is enjoying their summer and having a great time with friends and family or whatever they're doing, staying safe and being healthy. Thanks for the question, Rome, and we will talk to everyone soon.
Nothing is perfect.